welcome to the Straight Out of BS podcast. Thank you guys so much for your support. I really appreciate it. All my Patreon members, donators, listener support, you guys just mean the world to me. It was never expected. So any donation, just like it touches my heart and will be invested back into the podcast and later on, hopefully to enact new legislation and stuff like that. So I really appreciate you. It means the world to me. I want to do a moment of silence for the person still struggling with addiction or intrusive thoughts or anything like that. So on the count of three, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for that. And without further ado, we have a kind of a special episode for you today. Go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what years.
So my name is Frank Zebsta. I went to Academy at Ivy Ridge. I entered October 3rd, 2003. I left in September of 04. Enrolled in Spring Creek Lodge, the ranch in 04, and then graduated December 05.
Okay. And can you walk us through a little bit of what was going on before you got sent to the program and just like what led up to it?
Yeah. So I got sent to the program when I was 17 years old. Got expelled from school. It was a very typical angry youth type of story. A lot of behavioral problems, a lot of interventions with police officers, stuff like that. My parents got kind of sick of it and sent me away right after they got divorced. So separated, actually. And just the chaos of that kind of got into me, and I became walking chaos and spread that around. So the event that I guess you could say kind of pushed me over the edge was interaction with police officers outside of my house. They just kept asking me to go inside, and I kept instigating a fight, looking for something. And so a few months later, I'm in a car being told that I'm going on vacation and we're going to go up and see the leaves change in Canada. And I'm all excited. I pull into the school. My mom says that she's going to go have coffee with a friend. And next thing I know, 5 dudes come out, grab me out of the car, start dragging me in. On the way into Ivy Ridge, there's the fight, and they get control of me, get me in the facility, and next thing you know, I'm an airhead.
Okay. So you were like half transported, kind of.
Yeah. So I didn't get the full transport stuff, but I got the, oh, you don't want to go? We're going to take you anyway. And yeah, so yeah, my first interaction with staff was 4 dudes against me. And needless to say, I lost and concrete won.
Yeah. And how long were you at Ivy Ridge for?
So the roughly 11 months.
Okay. Yeah. And how long after you got there did they put you through your first seminar?
So I remember going through Discovery in December of 03. So like either right before or right after Christmas.
Okay. And how was your program there? Was it hard for you to get points? Did you rebel against the program? Did you try to get points but always get consequence, kind of like targeted? Or was the program fairly easy for you?
So I would say that the program was difficult because I wasn't going to follow it their way. Like I'm one of those people that always tries to find a way to survive in whatever system I'm in. So I hovered level 1, level 2. I got close to level 3 at Ivy Ridge. But yeah, the family situation at Ivy Ridge was not the most, typical. It wasn't loving. So we also had a problem with a family rep. So we started off with this woman who was lovely, sweet, and actually kind of made the program bearable, to be honest. And when she left, that's when I knew, like, let the countdown begins. I got 176 days. I was just reading my paperwork the other day. I got 176 days left in this place until I take my exit plan when the new family rep came in. So it was difficult. It was tedious. And in, I would say, September, I think my paperwork said September 8th, I took my exit plan and left Ivy Ridge and was okay. Now I'm homeless. I don't care what I have to do. I'm not going back there. Called my parents. They negotiated with me that if I went back to Ivy Ridge for a couple days until a PC1, that they would bring me home. So my options were I could be homeless or go back for a few days and have a place to stay and figure stuff out. So I went back, and that's when I would say they really teed up their psychological abuse. So I got in there. I had a temperature. I was throwing up. They would not let me go on sickbed. Food for the next couple days was non-existent. They wanted me sitting in perfect study hall formation for 4 days, 3 days, whatever the hell it was. And there was no reason for me to be down there. It was just, we're not letting you back in a family. You're going to sit in study hall intervention, or you can walk back out the door. So it was, we're not going to treat you like a human being for the next couple of days while you're here. You're going to get treated like you're less than whatever. So went through the PC1, went home the next day, and a few days later, I'm on a plane heading out to Spring Creek Lodge. So I went out to the ranch there. I spent about a year and 3 months at the ranch, which was kind of like a mind fuck. Compared to Ivy Ridge, it was like a resort vacation. You didn't have staff on you telling you what to do. You didn't have to worry about getting restrained or seeing kids restrained every other day or hearing screams or bangs against walls or stuff like that. So it was like a peaceful type of abuse. The staff was still grooming out there. There was one staff, and I just want to make special note of him. He was like the only staff that did not act like staff. He was like one of the students. He looked out for us, tried to protect us. He recently just passed away, so I just wanted to give him a little special accommodation. But yeah, that situation messed with me bad because it convinced me that now I'm safe and I'm doing all of this work and this work feels good. So now the program started feeling like it meant something and it was good and I can do something with it. So I got up to level 4, level 5, technically. Became ranch foreman, kind of was one of the big leaders out there, and then graduated. And then once I graduated, life kind of spiraled out of control. I found alcohol and got into a DWI car accident. Came back to Spring Creek to hide out for a month or two. And the court said, if I stay out in Montana and get a job out there, they'll forget about the DUI. So they offered me a job, and next thing you know, I'm a staff member at Spring Creek.
Okay. I was kind of curious how that became, but yeah. It was the court. Interesting. Okay.
So, yeah, and I just want to clarify, it wasn't court ordered. It was more like an agreement. They understood that if they could get me to stay in Montana, I'm not a problem of theirs. And Montana was like, okay, yeah, we need staff, so we'll hire you. And so I'm like, hey, these two things are working out. Can this be my deal? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. So I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like I wasn't forced to be a staff member. It was just very beneficial for me to take that position.
Okay. And what was the hardest part for you about being when you were in the boarding school at Ivy Ridge and at the ranch? What do you think the hardest part for you was, and how did you deal with it?
So the hardest part as a 17-year-old was the fact that junior staff was between the ages of 14 and 16. And I have these little kids that if there wasn't staff around, like they're telling me what to do, I could just throw them, wherever. And so there was that, like attack on my ego. And then there was the hardest part was being in a place filled with men that were like my father. Um, everyone looking for a problem, everyone looking for what's wrong with the situation and all of that. There wasn't any type of, they're trying to heal us. They're telling us all these things of, you're going to get better. Just work the program, work the program. Meanwhile, they're doing everything they can to make sure we can't do the program. Like the emotional work versus the structure prevented the emotional work. So like I went back and forth in this like chaotic spell in my head of like, well, I'm trying to follow the rules, but you guys want me to be emotional and share and do all this. Like I can't do both at the same time. So that was the most difficult, was trying to figure out how do I be emotional and control it at the same time. And that just broke my brain.
Okay. When you became staff at Spring Creek, how many people would you say on average were on the facility, if you had to make an estimate, and how many people were there when you left?
Oh, so when I started on facility, I believe there was about 200 kids. Okay. And when I left, there was under 100. So within that year span of me working there, we lost 150 students and couldn't replenish them.
Okay. And when you started working there, what kind of training did they give you?
Absolutely none.
Okay. Did they show you how to restrain people?
That's a great question. That is a great question. The short answer is they tell you how to restrain people. They do not show you. And the caveat to that is nobody restrains the way that we are told to restrain. And it's actually encouraged to kind of make up your own restraint. Like, the way that it feels looking back at that is the abuse of the program is kind of like an art form, and each individual staff has their way of how they like doing certain things. And we're all kind of supported and encouraged to behave that way with the students. And it's kind of like, a continuation of the trauma. So, they know that, restraining is part of the structure of the program. If I'm traumatized, let me get some of that stuff out by taking it out on the students. That's the way that it felt like it was being communicated to me through some of the text of the employee manual that they give you, which is a joke, and through the conversations that I was having with other staff. Like they have that book that tells you what you're supposed to do, but then culturally everyone's like, yeah, we don't pay attention to that. So it's designed to be abusive, because the safeguards that are in place for it to not be so abusive are just completely disregarded.
Okay. And I forget, did they have male staff work female families, or was it just male working male families?
So when I was working at Spring Creek, it was females working females families, male working male families. However, again, caveat here, there are male staff that would cover female staff breaks. So there were times where I was the staff member in the female cabin, kind of watching the girls while other staff members would go have a cigarette break or whatever. So yeah, those situations were awkward.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
What do you want to really put a focus on in regards to your time as staff member there? Because I'm kind of like, I'm not really sure how to go about the questions about staff members. So like, what do you kind of want to address about being a staff member there?
So there's so much to go into.
Yeah.
I think one of the hardest things that I struggled with as a staff member was that I really genuinely felt like I could do something better than what happened at Ivy Ridge. So there were a few staff when I worked or when I was in Ivy Ridge that I did feel safe with. And I think I can speak for everyone when a certain staff member's name is mentioned on social media, we all kind of like we rally behind that guy. So I really paid attention to what he did as a staff member for me and tried to bring that to Spring Creek, which was I didn't want to use consequences as a punishment. I didn't want to be taking something. I wanted the kids to feel like the consequences were a lesson and that in some way I was negotiating with them and they got some power out of the lesson. And one of the things I did as a staff member, and I don't know if anybody was able to pick up on this, is I said the word self-correct all the time. Never once did I ever look at the back of an eval and make sure that that consequence had ended up there. Because for me, it was more about the kid being able to correct themselves and not them proving it to me that they corrected it. Like I can see that someone stops a certain behavior. I don't need a self-correction form. I don't need points coming out. I see the behavior, great. I'm done with that, you know. And I also tried to not be aggressive with the students. Like I tried to bring in genuine compassion to the family that I worked. But I think staff members, other staff members, I think they need to address where their aggression comes from. I think that was one of the hardest things that I struggled with at Spring Creek was I was a unique staff. It felt like I was a unique staff member in comparison to the backdrop of supporting staff. And then the last thing that I would say about my time at Spring Creek that is probably the most important would be I call it the downfall of Spring Creek. So there was that event or numerous events that happened at Spring Creek in succession that kind of led to a changing of the guard. So the director got fired, a shift supervisor, a couple of support staff got fired, and we had this major PC1. That whole event is what really changed the environment at Spring Creek. It was no longer like anything that I recognized. So I would say all of those things are good avenues to go down with me and with other staff. Like what were staff's experience of the students and what they were supposed to do when they were staffing, you know?
Definitely. Did you staff any Trail of Lights?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of them.
How did the Trail of Lights ceremony or whatever you want to call it change throughout the years that you were there? I know it changed.
Yeah. So conceptually, what Trail of Lights, the process is, it is a condensed version of the individual's program. So it started out a lot like the first trail that I did was in 06. And I showed up that morning and I got given a list from people of here are the people, here are some key things to pay attention to. I think I can speak for everyone. We all know who ran the Trail of Lights primarily. You know, let's just call him Big Red for now. You know, Big Red knows everything about every student on that facility. So he's given me information. Oh, this person struggles with this. Oh, this person struggles with that. You got to get them in this situation, that situation. So Trail is all about triggering the person and getting them to their breaking point and getting them right at their breaking point and showing them, listen, you're right there. Now you know the tips on how to calm yourself down, de-escalate yourself, get yourself down to a lower frequency, you know, try and practice that. What it stopped being was that healing process. So when I was in charge of staffing trails and Big Red was out of there, I kind of had a lot of arrogance going in it. Like, I already knew these people. I already knew what they were struggling with. I didn't need to do any of the due diligence of looking into their files or anything like that. So I would almost say once the changing of the guard happened at Spring Creek, a lot of the positive messaging that did exist in some of the processes just kind of faded away.
Okay. Did they have people hike up a mountain at some point?
Oh, yeah. Oh, so yeah, so a lot of the stuff that Trail did was brutal. Absolutely. So the mountain that we would hike up is shale covered. So there's no solid ground. And it's, I would say, a 70% incline. So, I mean, as close to straight up and down as you can possibly get. And they're supposed to climb up this. At some points, I've been a part of trails where the kids were expected to climb up it blindfolded. Then I've been in other trails where we've climbed up mountains, and before we start walking, they're like, okay, you can take the blindfolds off. This gets kind of dangerous. So there's no real like structure to Trail of Lights. It's a lot of chaos. It is a lot of fun, but I've also been on the receiving end. When you're the one blindfolded, it's torture.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't fun. I was the last person to graduate, and when I did Trail of Lights, I only did it with one other person. So it was really fucking weird. Plus it was the last one, so I mean everything was hogwashed about the facility. So I mean,
did you do the Passover process?
Yeah, I got to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
That's like one of my most cherished memories about being there, probably.
That was like the only like awesome part about Trail for me. Was like being able to get passed through the facility. That was
Yeah, that I would do again, but what about grooming of staff towards students?
So there's no like official policy or anything like that goes on. It's not from what I understand, it's not an institutional conspiracy. At least I haven't seen any proof of that. But it does. There are some hints that it was suggested that something like this should go on. So this kind of leads into the story of that led to the downfall of Spring Creek. So if we want to get into the Diet Man story, we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I would say March, April of 2006, Big Red, the staff member that, everyone loved and hated at the same time, he got laid off. So he was no longer going to be at facility. And at the same time that he was being laid off, all of admin building got laid off as well.
Do we know why this happened?
Yeah. So, well, there's the official story and then there's the unofficial truth. The official story is that they wanted to start saving money. So they wanted to cut out unneeded staff and bring in staff that could replace them for a cheaper price, basically. So they were looking to save money. But from what I understood about emails coming in from Litchfield is that the two brothers that were the directors of that school had seriously upset the big man up top. And he did not want the two brothers running the school anymore. Unfortunately for Litchfield, every staff member on that facility was loyal to the two brothers. So what it appeared to be was a systematic removal of everyone that was loyal to the two brother directors and a replacement of people who just kind of wanted to do their own thing. So that's when Diet Man kind of came into the picture, and he was God on facility. So he had the authority of admin. He was a ship supervisor. He lived on facility. So they gave him keys to the castle, and he could do whatever he wanted. How anyone thought that that would be appropriate for one person to hold all that power was beyond my recollection. So, needless to say, when Diet Man got on facility, it was a battle between him and I. So I was like one of the more vocal friends of Big Red. And my thing is, Big Red had a legacy on facility, and I was going to make sure that that legacy was maintained and that respect was shown to it. I didn't see Diet Man showing that kind of respect. And so it actually got heated a few times. There were a few fights between me and Diet Man and his, crew of people. And I actually threatened to leave facility quite a few times if things weren't changed. Like, I'm telling them I don't like the vibes, I don't like the way things are feeling. And that's kind of when they did a whole transformation on facility. So when I started as a staff member, we had study hall, worksheets, all of that stuff. By the time that I was in the family, there was only intervention. So no study hall, you can't send kids out. That's, fine. I actually like that system a lot better. When the Diet Man came in, that's when we switched from family rep being separate to family rep now being in the family. So they promoted me. This is what they told me. They promoted me to family rep for the family that I was working. And that kind of gave me a little bit more juice. So now I am group living, but I'm also family rep. So he wasn't my boss anymore. I was different. So that was kind of the saving grace that the facility gave me in order to keep me around, is they promoted me over other people to the family rep position.
Okay. And do we know what the owners of the facility did to upset Litchfield?
It came down to we didn't talk about this in between. Are we okay saying the Fallen's name on camera? Or should we just talk about a student that passed away on facility?
Let's just say a student that passed away.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. So it came down to that student who passed away on facility. Neither of the brothers handled that emotionally well. So I personally was in their presence when we were talking about that story. And one of the brothers to this day still breaks my heart when I think about that. It was a lack of awareness on their part, and they were trying to they didn't want the facility to be traumatizing. They, and I'm gonna speak my own experience about the two. So I can't prove this, but my experience of myself when I'm around them is that they are two people that wanted to stop hurting, but only knew how to. And with that situation on facility, they kind of had their awakening of, things must be really bad if someone's going to do that on facility. So they wanted to address and overhaul everything. They wanted to separate from WASP. They were talking making Spring Creek its own school, not associated at all. So that's a lot of where the rift between Litchfield and the brothers came in.
Okay, interesting. Did you ever staff any seminars?
Yeah. So as a student, I staffed everything but Keys to Success.
Okay.
And then as a staff member, that was somebody else's gig. I think I remember being the staff for, oh no, yes. So I definitely was the staff member at an orientation. That led to me being aware of another student. And yeah. So yeah, as a staff, I did staff seminars.
Okay. What was your experience of staffing seminars? Like, did you feel like it was like, did you feel like the seminars, like, especially staffing, did you feel like it was actually making a difference for the kids, or did you feel like it was kind of just pseudoscience?
Well, I can say that some of the individual processes themselves offer a level of power and a level of healing to the individual. But obviously, in order for those to like transfer into actual genuine healing, this situation has to be therapeutic. It has to be a loving, nurturing environment. So I would say yes, it is a pseudoscience in that it is proven, but the manner that we were using it defied how we got the science to begin with. So we know that if someone talks about their problems and is safe enough to be vulnerable, there is a mechanism that can be worked through. But what the program was trying to do was industrialize this. So they took proven psychological therapeutic tactics that work on an individual level and tried to do it to a mass audience. And it's like, that's not going to work. You
Yeah.
know, we got to be one-on-one with somebody healing ourselves. We can't be in this group with people we don't know. Yeah. So it, they used good tactics in bad environments, and that's why it was abusive, because the tactics felt and looked good aesthetically, but then when you dissect them later on, you're like, no, 100% this was psychologically abusive.
Okay. And improper restraints. Did you witness any improper restraints? Did you yourself perform any improper restraints? Did you yourself perform any restraints at all? Did you see any of that kind of stuff go on?
So to be honest, no. Well, there weren't a lot of restraints, I would say. Let's just get the me stuff out of the way. There were 3 times that I put my hands on students. I wouldn't call 2 of them restraints. One absolutely was a restraint. So one was a student was not wanting to comply, not wanting to do anything like that. And we did not have study hall. And it was one of those, like, it was right in between shifts. So I didn't have to deal with it. I wanted to get off facility. I had a lot of like, get me out of this situation type of deal. So me and the student, I wouldn't say, yeah, we kind of wrestled. We got down to the ground. I did not do the typical staff move of slam them down to the ground, jump on top of them, and have all the other staff members dogpile on top also. So the restraint actually followed the handbook. I grabbed the wrist, tied them in front of him, got his legs down on the ground, put my legs out in front of him, and held the student close to my chest until they calmed down. The student did not calm down. No other staff member really jumped in for the restraint. Admin walks in and you see Big Red go, okay, so we're done here, right? And the student calms down, gets up, goes to intervention. And it was kind of, I was pissed that nobody helped me out, but at the same time, looking back, thank God nobody helped me out, because now
Yeah.
I get to say I did a textbook restraint and nobody got hurt.
Yeah. What did you think of the food on the facility? Did you feel that it was decent for the kids, or did you feel that it was like not the best
Uh,
as a staff member?
Well, I'll speak for both staff and student.
Okay.
The food was, bleh, you know, it was sub-sufficient. So it was food, it was okay food. It provided all of the necessary nutrients, but was it good? Did it actually nourish us? Did it actually make us feel like we were getting stronger? I never felt healthy after a meal at Spring Creek. I never felt healthy after a meal at Ivy Ridge. So yeah, there was edible food. I can say confidently the food was edible, but delicious, healthy, nutritious, no.
Okay. And I had somebody bring this up. They were wondering why. You know how boys would eat and then they would do exercise, right? Usually they do exercise afterwards, right? Well, I had a girl that I interviewed recently that said that they wouldn't do that on the girls' side. That they would eat and then just go straight back to the cabin or do like another. They wouldn't exercise. So they were saying that a lot of the girls, as a result, ended up getting overweight, and the guys ended up like getting skinnier. So did you? Was there any like? Did you know anything about the differing of schedules?
The differing of schedules was it was an obvious real thing, but it made absolutely no sense. Even going back to Ivy Ridge days. So they wake you up in the morning and you're doing fitness first thing. And it's not light fitness, it's you're at the gym working out. And so you get sweaty, consequences galore, all of that stuff to start your day, and then you go back to the dorm area and you get your dress clothes on and you go and you do your day. No shower, no breakfast before. It's just, yeah, right in the morning, off to torture.
Yep.
So there was no understanding of why the schedules was different. It was just, hey, we need these activities in a day. So girls can fit in the gym at this time. We're going to get the girls' families in the gym at this time. Oh, they don't fit in the gym at that time. We'll figure something. Like, there was no consideration of what's best for the schedule. It was where can we fit them in the time that we have.
Okay. And I know that I was hearing rumors about this on the facility when I was there. Do you know about any like improper like sexual interaction between student and like staff? Because I know
Yes.
I heard like rumors about quite a few of these going on when I was there.
Yes. There's absolutely going on. Um, so one of the reasons that led to the PC1 happening at Spring Creek, where all families were invited for one seminar. I think that was the first time in WASP history that a PC1 had every parent, every student involved in it. And so the details of what happened with that are uh, kind of a lot of things going on at once. There were two staff members that were stealing pills from the students. So Adderall, anything that can make you sleep, anything that can bring you up, was going missing. So I
Interesting.
was, yeah. So me and another staff member started getting requests and phone calls from parents that their kids not getting their meds, they're failing tracks. And, as a family rep, we have a pretty easy job unless there's somebody messing with what's already automatically taken care of. So I had to do a little bit of investigation. The other staff member was helping me do an investigation. And the other staff member found out that they were taking meds and snorting it in their personal cabin that they had taken over. So I went in there and found the empty wrappers, the crushed up pills, the contraband where they were doing all that stuff. Took that and delivered it to the administrative staff. And I said, this is what I found. This is what I know what's going on, and all of that. A couple days later, there was a trail of lights. So, students were graduating, all of that stuff. And so I did that. And one of the students that was graduating, we'll just say that me and her had a colorful experience together when she was a student. And so her being in trail, I know I went a little bit harder on the students than I should have. It was the temperatures had to be over 100 for sure. and I had them doing push-ups and sit-ups and not doing water breaks as often as I should. So I dropped this student off at Staff Central and continue on with trail. Trail goes on without a hitch, and the next day is graduation. Students get on the bus, they take off. I get two students who, to this day, I'm in admiration of, coming up to me and saying that the diet man, the shift supervisor who took the kids to graduate, is actually dating and has been having a relationship with one of the students. And at least, let me say this, at least one student. I can only confirm one, but there is suspicion of others. At least one student, and that the plans were this staff member was going to bring the student back to Spring Creek. So I got into Diet Man's cabin, got a whole bunch of stuff. So he had prescription medications, love notes. I mean, unbelievable cachet of evidence of why a person shouldn't be on that kind of facility. Again, brought it to admin, and this time I said, if I don't have confirmation that he's not allowed back here by end of day, I'm off facility, gone, not coming back. So that's kind of what led to that spiral. Was those two events happened simultaneously almost, and as a result, the director who replaced the two brothers, she was let go, and a whole bunch of staff went with her, and that kind of gutted Spring Creek.
Okay. Did you notice when you were working as a staff there, like, did you notice over time, like, getting the urge to be violent with the kids, just like, because I know that over, like, it's been shown to happen, like, over time with people, that they start to get, like, when they have power over students or whatever, or over a group of people, that they start to sometimes feel the urge to be violent or whatnot. Did you ever start to feel that urge to be violent, or like, because like you said, you were working them in the sun when it was really hot out and not giving as many water breaks as you probably should have. Did you feel like that? Did you just notice yourself kind of going towards those more bad avenues when you were there?
For sure, the temptation was there. For
Okay.
sure. I got to thank a very specific student who's no longer with us on for that. And I am going to use his name. So yeah, Gabe Haney kept me in check. There was a lot of times where I was getting out of control with some of the things that I was saying and some of the behaviors that I was putting out there for the students. And luckily I had him trust me enough where he could go to me and go, hey, that's not cool. And I'm going, maybe it's not cool. You know, like I kind of dig that existed in me as a staff member, that I was still able to trust that these students wouldn't tell me something hurt them that wasn't hurtful. So in a lot of ways, I know what you're saying. The program didn't break me in that sense.
Okay.
So I never got to, like, at Ivy Ridge, everything is so violent. By the time you get to upper levels, in order for you to stay on the staff's good side, you have to be that violence so that the staff doesn't have to. I never got that grooming. So when I went out to the ranch, everything was loving and peaceful. And we tried to work everything out with words and, you know, healthy communication tactics, stuff like that. It always fell apart with us at the ranch, but like, that's how we handled stuff. We never put our hands on each other whatsoever. So I kind of am blessed that, yeah, the temptations to become aggressive and the temptations to become evil are absolutely there, tempting you every day as a staff member. I just got blessed that I met certain people that kept me on that straight path, that didn't let me get down there.
Okay. What did you think about the schooling? Uh, that we were given there?
uh, um, so it there's information to be learned in those books, but does it account for anything? Absolutely not. So do I have it here? No, I don't. Damn it. I still have the diploma from Spring Creek. It has the signature, it has the emblem on it, the whole 9 yards. It's useless. So I had to, I'm enrolled in college right now. And in order to enroll in college, I had to get my GED. So there's no value in having those diplomas. There are no valued transcripts, and they kind of knew that this was coming. So one of the untold secrets about WASP is the political connections that Litchfield has with high, powerful Republicans, and universal education, or Common Core as they call it now, that's been in the works since the early 2000s. So these programs knew that there was going to be a universal education system coming, and that statewide a lot of things were just going to fall through the cracks. So they knowingly took advantage of a situation where no one was going to be able to verify the education at these schools. So why make them legitimate? Like, why put the effort into making them legitimate educational programs when they know they can fall through the cracks? Because in a couple of years, if the federal government didn't come up with the idea, it's not accredited school. So yeah, they used insider information to really take advantage of the situation.
Okay. What did they tell you about runners when you were hired there? Did they tell you anything about what to do about a runner? I know that you chased runners. So like, what happened when a runner would run?
So I don't know what typical staff get trained when runners happen. There was a lot of faith put in me as a former student that I already knew kind of what to do. So yeah, I mean, within my first couple weeks at Spring Creek, I had 3 students run on me. And it's terrifying as a staff member, because I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm going to get in trouble again. Like, I'm going to get dropped. I'm going to be back in the program, all that stuff. So I got PTSD triggered there. But yeah, one of the things that is it's not really spoken too much, it's just very well known, is whatever it takes to get the student back to the facility is what it takes. And whatever happens in the woods stays in the woods.
Yep. Why? And I have to ask this question because people are going to get on my ass if I don't ask it.
Yeah.
Why did you stay? Even when, like, I know that you like left in the end, but like, why did you stay? Like, I know that you got hired there, and like, did you actually think that you were helping the kids? Is that why you stayed? Or?
Yeah. So I had developed relationships with kids, saying goodbye was not easy. It was a very, very hard decision, but a lot of it came down to, I thought that I could fix the program. So I didn't think the kids were the problem. I think the kids needed a safe place to come, get away from their parents, get away from the craziness of reality, because that's what I needed. I do know that I needed to get away from my mother and father. I needed a safe place to kind of, decompress from everything that was going on in that household, decompress from everything that happened to me in life. And so I always thought, fuck, just get me away from here. I don't care where I go. Just get me away from here. And so when I went to Montana, and I was far away from all of that trauma and far away from all of that drama, I felt safe, and I felt like I could make something that wasn't as abusive as Ivy Ridge as safe for students as it could be. What I didn't realize is that there are mechanisms to keep it not safe. So no matter how hard I was trying to make things better and fix the system and do everything for the students that was deprived of me, the more I did that stuff, the more the program staff, admin, higher ups would come to me saying, that's not how we do things here. And I'm like, well, I'm here and that's how I do things. And it was, when Tyler and Lucy showed up to replace the other director, Litchfield's nieces and nephew, yeah, that was the end of the fight in me. Them coming in signaled to me that Litchfield wasn't playing around. He was going to burn that facility down to the ground, and he was going to destroy every kid along the way, taking every ounce of money he could before he had to shut the doors. So I couldn't watch that happen, knowing I couldn't do anything to stop it. Like, once I figured out that there was no way that I could stop the pain and the trauma from happening, I couldn't be associated with it anymore.
Okay. And what regrets do you have and what guilt do you have about your time as both a staff and maybe as a student as well?
So I'll answer the guilt part about the staff first. I feel guilty even being a staff. Abuse in that regard is not okay at all. And what those schools teach is for the spirit to be denied, and for the spirit that it's okay that you abuse people's spirits, and in whatever fashion a person abuses a person's spirit is what those programs are about. So I regret co-signing, like putting my name on that dotted line and saying that it's okay because I'm going to fix it. It was never okay. I never could have fixed it, and I never should have been a staff member. So I still have that guilt that I, in some way, putting my name on that facility and telling parents that their kids are safe there, that's something I got to live with. PC1, yeah, that PC1 was rough because I had that moment where I could have shut it down and I could have said, no, you know what? Things aren't going to change. Things aren't going to get any better. We're not going to fix it. Your kids need to go home with all of you, and this seminar should be over right now. I would relish in the opportunity to have that moment again, because I know that I was trying to save the program so that I could feel like I was saving myself. It was never about loving Spring Creek. I loved Spring Creek because I couldn't love myself. So now that I'm able to love myself, I'm looking at that choice going, my choice to love something that isn't real hurt other people. And I should have loved myself and them and said, take your kids the fuck out of this place.
Okay. And do you have any idea where our files are from Spring Creek?
Oh, so,
or where they could be?
I know who I can ask about that, and I can get a definitive answer for you. So, okay. That's something we would have to do like a second update about. Okay. Because I don't know. Let me see if I can send a message real quick. This is interesting. I know who was in charge of it. I know what they told us was supposed to happen to the files. Um, Whether or not those things happened is kind of a mystery. So we got the announcement that they were going to be dwindling down and slowly shutting down the facility, and that there was going to be this transfer period and a specific admin that was supposed to stay there to the end. Uh, she was going to be in charge of organizing everyone's file and getting it on into some kind of a facility for the files to be stored.
Interesting.
Yeah. So from what I understand, they were supposed to be collected, organized, and then a truck would pick them up one day and bring them to a place to be stored. Whether or not that happened, I don't know.
Okay. So there's a chance they could still be out there.
There is a chance they could still be out there. Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Well, oh yeah, what was the policy on intervention? Or did they have a policy on intervention for students that were in there?
So when I got there, the policies changed for intervention.
Okay,
So
how were they when you got there, and how did they change?
Okay, so when I got there, it was like the typical worksheets intervention breakup. So kids can't make it in the family, he goes to study hall. Can't make it in study hall, he goes to intervention. For intervention, it started out that the person would be up in intervention for an hour and then come back to study hall and start working off worksheets and then go to the family. When they eliminated worksheets, intervention became a 30-minute break period. So the philosophy was these are not supposed to be isolating. This is a breather for the student, get them out of the family, get them in a room, talk about some of the stuff, get them to calm down, and then get them back in the family as soon as possible. Unfortunately, that's not how it always worked. So there were students that would go up there for the half hour. And if you went up to intervention with me for a half hour, I took that as a work break. So that half hour would be up and I would ask the student, do you want to go back? And they would go, I'm not sure yet. I'm like, great, we're going to sit here for another half an hour. So because I wanted to not do anything, we would stay up in intervention for an hour and then I would start coaching. Other staff members I know were very much old school with the treatment of intervention. So kids were still going to be restrained in those rooms, and sometimes support staff would be called, sometimes support staff would not be called. So yeah, when I was staff member there, there were an aura of familiarity with the way that staff and students and the way the structure all looked. By the time I was getting ready to leave, none of it looked the same. And there was no regulations, there was no structure, there was no rules, there was no documentation. It was just kind of, hey, this is how we want things to go now. Now do what I said. And we all kind of just used our imagination as to how that looked.
Okay. So a lot of it was up to interpretation.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. All right. What have you struggled with as a result of being in, as being a student, or how about just as a whole? Let's just do as a whole. What have you struggled with as a whole, both being a student and being a staff member as a result?
So being a student, it's really hard to connect with people. So I had to communicate the way that we communicate in seminars. I know, instinctively, if somebody is upsetting me, I know how to vocalize and have that person understand that I'm not happy with the way that I'm perceiving their behavior, and they will self-correct. So there's that kind of stuff that I've had to be in therapy to break out of my behavior. So student wise, yeah, there's a lot of trauma that I gotta unpack. Staff wise, I think the hardest thing that I'm dealing with is the dad complex. So, and no matter, I'm in school, no matter how I behave, all of the kids that have lost fathers or anything like that kind of draw to me. And, they'll show me their schoolwork and ask for corrections because they know I'm not going to be mean about it. And so that's kind of weird because, yeah, I do want to be a dad, but I don't want to be a dad to the world. So
Yeah.
struggling with certain aspects of my complexes, I would say is where I'm at right now.
Okay. And I definitely want to do a follow-up with you if you're open to it. Because I have a feeling that not only people after we release this video are going to have questions, but also I have a feeling stuff will probably come up for you too. And I'm probably going to think of more questions too. So
yeah, I'm definitely open to a follow-up.
Okay. Well, is there for this interview, for this first one, is there anything else you want to cover in this interview?
Just that, like, one of the things that bothers me the most whenever program kids tell their story is like the reason we got sent away. I don't like talking about the reason I got sent away because I've read my parents' email with the family reps, and yeah, one of the things that the program did that was the worst is they lied about everything. So they would tell us things like, "Hey, don't worry, your parents are working the program too." That's a lie. Everything you go through, your parents are also going through. That's a lie. Your parents, you're not here because your parents don't like you. You're here because you were behaving wrong. That's a lie. I read my parents' emails and I'm at Ivy Ridge because they still can't figure out their own shit. Mm-hmm. So I know that for me personally, my behavior was out of control because people kept touching me and I kept telling my parents and my parents kept saying, no, they weren't. So every time they said I was lying about stuff, they didn't want to hear the truth. So the truth as to why I got sent to the program, I got sent to the program because my parents couldn't deal with themselves.
Okay. And actually, I have 2 more questions that I just thought of. Were the family fathers given the files on each individual student, or were those kept in Staff Central, or where were admin, or where were those kept, and who got to see those files?
So the Brown files were family rep files. Admin had their own files, and academics had their own files.
And then they would take them down to seminar too, right?
So what would happen is that was all family rep work. So the family reps keep their file. They get all of the paperwork from the family fathers. They get all the paperwork from the teachers and the academic department. And then Premier comes in, and for every student that goes down to these seminars, there are sheets that they fill out. This person's for this person's for that. And they get handed down to the seminar, and that's how the facilitator kind of knows everything that's going on. Another thing that should be mentioned is a department I didn't mention, I should say, is the therapy department. So when students were getting therapy from therapists at Spring Creek, those notes also made it back to the family rep. There was no confidentiality when it came to therapists and stuff like that at Spring Creek.
Okay. And do you know if the therapists were licensed?
From what I never saw any accreditation or documentation, but from what I understand, everyone was in some form or fashion had a diploma in human resources or a master's degree. That's what I was told by the same person who assured me that my diploma had merit. So, grain of salt.
Okay. And do you know if the doctor was an actual doctor, the one that prescribed
Oh,
medication?
okay. So, technically, legally, yes, he is a doctor. However, he falls under the category of veterinarian.
Oh my God.
So so out in Montana, if you're a horse doctor, you can do basic treatment for humans. It is it yeah, it's so yeah, that doctor, last name beginning with L, was a horse doctor. He was a veterinarian and did not want to go on to ranches anymore. So he started a private practice, general private practice, where he prescribed medication for humans. How that could easily transfer over, I don't know, but it does.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. And my last question for you is, if you could go back in a time machine and not go through the school as a student and not be a staff member, would you do it? And why?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would absolutely. Well, I would go back and I would go back in the time machine and stop becoming a staff member. I would not stop becoming a student, um, because of the people. So I have a very hard time connecting with people, but with program kids, my program family, as I like to call them, uh, life's easy. Talking is easy. Um, so I wouldn't change that. I wish I could change individual things about why we are so close. Like, I wish that we didn't all have to suffer to be so close. But if the suffering is what brings this bond, I take the good with the bad.
Okay. And I'm so sorry. I have one more question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is it your belief, knowing what you know now, that these schools, the remaining schools that are open still, could or even should or even could be fully regulated, or is it your belief that they should all be shut down?
Oh, instinctively shut down. Knee-jerk reaction shut down. I at this point, yeah, no, I'm going to stick with it. Shut down. At this point, I do not believe that you can correct a system that is built on a foundation of abuse. The metaphor coming to my brain is a house. If a house is built on a shaky foundation, it's going to collapse. So before it collapses on people, let's get the people out of this stuff, break them down, and then come together. Like, let's put together an organization of the kids that have been through these programs. Let us create them. Let us tell you what wouldn't be abusive. And now we actually have an institution where we can send kids that will be safe, that will not abuse them, and we can actually start healing kids. Yeah, rebuild, shut them all down, bring them all down to the ground.
All right, totally. All right, well, thank you so much for coming on
Yeah,
the show, and I'd love to have you on again. So we'll definitely make that happen.
for
And
sure.
if you guys have watched this far in the video, please make sure you like the video, share it, and subscribe if you're not already. And let's get these places shut down, man. And we'll
Yeah.
catch you on the next one.
All
Bye,
right.
y'all.